Initially, right when this Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade happened, I did a reaction to it, just basically saying my outright, honest, raw opinion. I wanted to, however, wait more to really go in depth because that video I didn't spend too long in making, since I knew that there was going to be more people who had some inside information potentially showing what is going on. And then shortly after, you start seeing reports like Luka Doncic was overweight, not in shape, and the management didn't appreciate this. They just wanted to move on, basically saying he wasn't serious enough. And then First Take, Stephen A. Smith, Brian Windhorst, and Shannon Sharpe gave their take, and I'm going to react to various things that they said because there was important pieces of information that could tell you what led up to this, with Stephen A. bringing up Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks, and his history in the NBA and beyond that could possibly have influenced him to make this move. Without further ado, let's get into this right now.
Hearing a lot of things about conditioning, lack of dedication, the fact that it became much of a headache for them. There's so much more to this that we don't know. There is so much more of this that speaks to their level of frustration and, dare I say, potential fury, no matter what they say, no matter what they try to deny. Shannon, do you realize by sending Luka to Los Angeles, he is no longer eligible for the Supermax? They've cost him over $100 million. Owners are loving this. It's sending the right kind of message in their eyes. We're the ones in control, not them. All of that comes into play. It was a statement being made, as far as I'm concerned, not just by the Dallas Mavericks, but by the league. And I think the fallout is going to be dramatic, to say the least.
When it comes to the conditioning aspect of this, I've said before in previous videos, if I was the 76ers, for example, I would have traded Joel Embiid. He's just not healthy enough. Zion Williamson, it's the same thing. Kawhi Leonard has been injured a lot, unfortunately, and that's kind of out of their control. You could say maybe you could do X, Y, and Z to make sure you're in better shape, but ultimately they're not purposely going out there trying to get injured. But speaking about Kawhi, he recently got a huge contract. I think it was last year around this time. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when I see all of that, and I'm looking at a guy like Luka Doncic, who may be overweight, not always in shape, he's on the court most of the time, relatively healthy and playing at a spectacular level, good enough, or I should say great enough, where he could get you to an NBA Finals if you give him a player like a Kyrie Irving. In other words, my thought process is leaning towards they gave up on Luka Doncic too early, especially given the other guys I just mentioned who are getting a lot of grace who don't play as much as he does, which goes into Stephen A's next point about the max contract situation. Nico Harrison in this press conference said that, yeah, we can give him the Supermax, but it doesn't mean he's going to sign back. I was questioning originally when I heard that because I covered it. Okay, that is true, but is he saying that just for the sake of we want to move on from Luka Doncic? Is it bigger than just being afraid that he may not sign that contract and they could keep him long term? Now, let me read a quote from Giannis Antetokounmpo that ties into Stephen A saying that the owners like this because it shows, hey, we are the ones who are in control. Quote, I thought it was fake news. Nobody's safe. If a 5-time All-NBA first team 25-year-old made the finals 7 months ago, led the NBA in scoring, scored 73 points, 60-point triple-double. I'm not here to talk about Luka and how good he is. I think everybody in the world knows he's one of the best players in the league.
The ability to lock down a player in his mid-20s who's one of the greatest players in the league on a 5-year extension is the dream for franchises. That's what the Thunder can do with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this summer. And I'm telling you, on June 30th, Oklahoma State troopers are going to be there to escort the piece of paper into his house so that the paper doesn't blow away in the wind. Then you have the Lakers side. They just hit a grand slam, all right? They were not going anywhere this year. They may have gotten, hot at the right time and healthy at the right time, and LeBron and AD played great at the right time, and they may have gotten to the second round of the playoffs. But this team had a ceiling on it. And then they, Stephen A., get to sign him to that 5-year contract this summer, and they get to do it at a $100 million discount.
Speaking of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, this is a quote when asked about the Luka Doncic trade that he just gave recently. I learned that lesson the hard way in my first year in the NBA. I got traded out of the blue. Didn't see it coming. It doesn't surprise me any more than myself getting traded a long time ago. I found out it was a business my first season. This is the biggest difference though. When Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got traded, he was still a very young player. First year in the NBA, nobody knew that he was going to turn into this MVP caliber level of player. They knew he had potential, but Luka Doncic obviously is an established player right now. Brian Windhorst is also right to point out that the Lakers probably weren't going anywhere if we're talking about a championship run. Let me just remind y'all of their recent playoff exit in years. In 2021, they lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Phoenix Suns. That team went to the NBA Finals. In 2022, they missed the playoffs completely 2023, they got swept by the Denver Nuggets. In 2024, they lost to the Denver Nuggets in the first round in 5 games. Okay? And this is just LeBron James over the years getting older. They're in a win-win situation. If they keep Luka Doncic and LeBron James, you could try something. LeBron ends up retiring. We're assuming the year after you move forward. Or you could just say, you know what, let's get this out the way. LeBron, we're moving on. We got Luka Doncic on a discount, as Brian Windhorst pointed out. Let's do everything we can starting today to put the best pieces available around Luka Doncic within the salary cap.
I believe the people that are coming in are adding to the culture. Anytime I hear that word culture, guys, my ears perk up. My ears perked up about 2 years ago when Rick Carlisle would not sign an extension. Stephen A., as long as you've covered this league and been around it, when do you do the same thing? When does a coach has a generational talent and he refuses to sign an extension? Now, we've seen those guys get fired, but to not sign an extension when you got a Luka, when you got a LeBron, when you got a Larry Bird or Magic, that doesn't happen.
I decided to just revisit Nico Harrison's resume. And this man played basketball at West Point, military discipline, that kind of thing. Been an executive at Nike for 19 years. Who has he worked with? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. Whether they win, if they won, give it a week. They win a championship, they win a week. They win, and a week later, you know, what are we doing? What are we doing to prepare for next year? If they lost, they ain't even wait a week.
I'm so glad, Steve, that you brought up Nico Harrison's resume, is that he's worked with Rob Pelinka for 20 years.
Excellent point by Shannon Sharpe to bring up the whole Rick Carlisle situation. Rick Carlisle is known for his old school approach that has rubbed players the wrong way. That's the word that is out there. And it was the same thing that was being said with him and Luka Doncic. There was also a situation with Dennis Smith Jr. where Rick Carlisle and Dennis got into it, I guess, and Luka Doncic loved Dennis Smith Jr. He was a guard that could score in limited minutes, and as a result, when they moved on from him, it was said that Luka Doncic wasn't too happy about that. On top of that, too, there's a story I remember JJ Redick telling. I believe it was on his podcast. It was definitely before he took the head coaching job of the Los Angeles Lakers, but he was sharing a moment when he was briefly on the Dallas Mavericks just before retiring. And it was a moment where Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis was arguing according to what he was explaining, and then Rick Carlisle tried to get in between it. I'm only bringing that up because when I heard Shannon Sharpe start talking about Rick Carlisle not wanting to sign an extension, it was a reminder that there was definitely a lot of tension with that team while he was there as the head coach. Now, what's interesting to hear Stephen A. bring up Nico Harrison working with guys like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and then also mentioning that they have a certain attitude when they lose, and even when they win, they're still not satisfied. It's letting me know in the public as we listen that Nico Harrison doesn't see Luka Doncic being cut from the same cloth as a Michael Jordan and a Kobe Bryant, which could be the reason why, even though they just made the NBA Finals, he decided the season after to trade his superstar in the middle of his prime, which would signal that this is deeper than just the raw talent that Luka Doncic has as a flat-out superstar in the league.
But for them to make this move and him not know anything about it, they can say, hey, we want to make sure it didn't get out because the slightest thing could get in the way of it. They can say all of that till the cows come home. In the end, when you have an ideal relationship with a star of that magnitude, he knows something. And they're saying they knew nothing. And if they knew nothing, that does make you look at the Lakers and think about how are they feeling about him right now.
Can I ask you a question, Stephen A.? You would
Yes,
know
sir.
this. Was Jerry Krause running trades by Michael Jordan?
No, but that was different, Shannon. Jerry Krause alienated Michael Jordan from his second year in the league. Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying, they didn't like him. You know, he dealt with him, but Michael Jordan was not fond, and everybody knows that story, Shannon. So that's a different situation.
I think the thing is, Kobe was homegrown.
For further context, in that clip, Stephen A. was bringing up the point that what does it communicate to LeBron and the rest of the league that LeBron himself did not know that this trade was going down. Nico Harrison in his press conference said not even Jason Kidd knew either. It was just him and Rob Pelinka that kept it tightly close to each other. Brian Windhorst already said that they'd known each other for 20 years. That's a great relationship, and they both trusted each other to the point where the biggest trade didn't come out. So it looks like they didn't care about anybody hearing this, whether it was LeBron, Luka, nobody. I'm going to end things right here. Y'all let me know in the comment section what you think of the things that Stephen A. had to say, Shannon Sharpe, Brian Windhorst, including myself. Do you think that Nico Harrison is justified in the responses that has been out there and even the reports with the conditioning, Luka Doncic not having the right attitude that they would want to build a team around to get a championship? I'm going to let y'all know, in my personal opinion, I would have kept Luka Doncic for at least another year, right up until his player option, or just before it, I should say. And if I still feel this level of animosity towards him, or just frustration, whatever you want to call it, then I would make the move. He's just too good of a talent and also healthy for the most part for me to give up on him this early, in my opinion. Again, y'all can let me know how you feel. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, salute for listening. Peace.